What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome here today to the 10 worst free agency signings of the 2010s. A couple days ago, I made the 10 worst trades of the 2010s, and you guys really enjoyed that video. So here we are today with the 10 worst free agency signings. There were a lot of bad ones, as I have 6 honorable mentions before I even get into this video, and you could probably have like 20 honorable mentions based off the bad signings of 2010s. Also, the amount of bad signings that happened on July 7th, 2016 is kind of crazy. Obviously, it was due to the cap spike, so teams were just throwing out money. You get a max deal, you get 20 mil a year, you get 18 mil a year. It was nuts. So yeah, this is gonna be a bad trip down memory lane for some of you guys that are fans of these teams, so let's get into it. So before we get into this, I have 6 honorable mentions. The first one is Tyler Johnson getting 4 years, $50 million from the Miami Heat. Dwight Howard getting $70.5 million over 3 years by the Atlanta Hawks. The Phoenix Suns giving Brandon Knight $70 million over 5 years. Allen Crabbe getting 4 years, $75 million by the Brooklyn Nets, which the Blazers thought it was a good idea to match that, which they did. Landry Fields getting 3 years, $20 million by the Toronto Raptors. And Josh Smith getting $54 million over 4 years by the Detroit Pistons. So now let's get into the top 10. And also, these aren't ranked from like worst to like really worst. These are just 10 in general. So first one I want to talk about is Solomon Hill getting 4 years, $48 million from the Pelicans on July 21st, 2016. This was obviously from the 2016 cap spike, as you saw so many teams give out so much money in that summer. And yeah, Solomon Hill basically averaged 5.5 points in 136 games for the Pelicans before getting traded to Memphis. And he basically got this $48 million contract by having a decent run for the Pacers coming off the bench. It's not like he was dropping 15 plus points a game. He was just an average role player for them off the bench in their playoff run the year prior. And the Pelicans were like, yeah, we need to get Anthony Davis some help. Let's give Solomon Hill 12 mil a year. Next one on this list is Monta Ellis getting 4 years, $44 million from the Indiana Pacers on July 14th. 2015. So this one did not work out well for the Pacers. They've had their nice free agency signings of the 2010s, but this one wasn't as nice, as Monta Ellis averaged about 11 points per game for them in 155 games in the first 2 years for Indianapolis before getting waived before season number 3. So it did not work out well for Monta in Indiana. This one is still going on today, and that is Nicholas Batum getting a 5-year, $120 million extension by the Charlotte Hornets before the 2016-2017 season. Now, I know this is technically not a free agent signing, but this might be the worst contract given out of the 2010s regardless. Nicholas Batum has averaged about 11.3 points per game in 238 games for Charlotte since the extension, and he still has this year and a $27 million player option next year, which he's probably going to opt into. And we could say that, yeah, Michael Jordan approved of a pretty awful extension given out to Batum, who came over from Portland in the year prior to 2016-2017. This one was just like, you kind of get it, because this player did have a good playoff run for the Raptors in Bismack Biyombo, but you have Nikola Vucevic. So why did the Orlando Magic give Bismack Biyombo 4 years, $70 million on July 7th, 2016. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, this is probably the first of a couple July 7th, 2016s you will hear. And yeah, Biyombo ended up playing 163 games in 2 years for Orlando. He averaged about 5.8 points per game in 20 minutes before getting shipped for Timothy Mozgov, that the Hornets had. It was basically bad contract for bad contract. Let's just exchange them. But yeah, Biyombo played really well for the Raptors in the playoffs, like a nice defensive big coming off the bench, but you just had Nikola Vucevic kind of starting to break out. I don't know why they did this trade. Maybe they thought he could play next to Vucevic. I don't know. I don't know what Orlando's front office was thinking at the time, but yeah, it was not a good signing whatsoever for them. Sticking on July 7, 2016, this is when the Portland Trailblazers gave Evan Turner 4 years, $70 million. Maybe this was the Brad Stevens effect, and Portland was like, yeah, he was good for Boston. Let's pick him up. As he played 217 games for the Blazers in 3 years, and he averaged about 8 points per night in 24 minutes a game. Evan Turner, former number 2 overall pick in the 2010 draft, really hasn't been that good throughout his career. Yes, his best years were on that Celtics team when it was a bunch of kind of role players standing out. It was like him, Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, etc., etc., etc. And he ended up getting 4 years, $70 million. Yeah, he hit free agency in the right time. 2 days later, so on July 9th, 2016, the Houston Rockets gave Ryan Anderson 4 years, $80 million. Anderson played 138 games for the Rockets in 2 years before getting traded to the Suns. He averaged about 11.5 points in 28 minutes a night for Houston. Yeah, I don't know what Daryl Morey was thinking at the time. Maybe it was the stretch 4, he could shoot threes. That's probably what the reasoning was. But he just did not turn out well for them, as he only played 2 years for the Rockets. Chandler Parsons received a 4-year, $94 million contract from the Memphis Grizzlies on July 7th, 2016. Chandler Parsons ended up playing 95 games for the Grizzlies in 3 years. So yeah, about 30 games a year, and it wasn't pretty. And he averaged about 7 points per game in about 20 minutes a night before getting traded to Atlanta. So we just talked about 8 free agency signings that were really bad, and these 3 might be the biggest head scratchers of the 2010s. Now, all 3 of these signings come from 2 big market teams, 2 from one from the other. You guys could probably all get them or guess them. 2 happened on July 7th, 2016 by one team, and then 1 happened the day after on July 8th, 2016. So let's get into them. They are just really hard to talk about. So on July 7th, 2016, the LA Lakers decided to give Luol Deng 4 years, $72 million. You know what sparked the Lakers to give Luol Deng $70 million for 4 years? A 12-point per game performance in about 74 games for the Heat the year prior. Yeah, 12 points per game got a 30-year-old Luol Deng about $17 million a year. Luol Deng ended up playing 57 games for the Lakers, averaging about 7.5 points in 26 games, and he ended up getting waived by the Lakers in 2018. Oh, Mitch Kupchak, what were you doing? And on the same day, NBA Twitter was such a good day to be on. The Lakers gave Timothy Mozgov $64 million over 4 years. You know why the Lakers gave Mozgov $64 million? Because he averaged 6 points and 3 rebounds for the Cavs in 17 minutes per game the year prior throughout the regular season. Oh, and you might be like, oh, maybe because he did well in the playoffs. Yeah, he averaged 1 point and 1 rebound in 6 minutes per game on that Cavaliers championship team. That is just outrageous. And he got $16 million a year. Mozgov ended up playing 54 games for the Lakers in 1 year before the Lakers decided to trade their former 2nd overall pick, D'Angelo Russell, for Brook Lopez and a 1st-round pick. So the contract was so bad, they needed to convince the team to take on that contract by having to give them their former 2nd overall pick. Credit to them, they did use that 1st-round pick to select Kyle Kuzma, but still, in hindsight, that signing might be the worst one of the 2010s. And the final one I want to talk about was on July 8th, 2016, so a day after both those contracts happened, was when the New York Knicks signed Joakim Noah to a 4-year, $72 million contract. Joakim Noah averaged 4 points in 29 games for the Bulls the year prior. He did average around 9 rebounds and 4 assists and was hurt for most of the year. So the Knicks were like, all right, maybe he could still be the defensive player, caliber player he was a couple years prior. But no, that was not the case. He ended up playing 53 games for the Knicks in 2 years before getting stretched by them. And yeah, it was not a bright moment in Phil Jackson's Knicks tenure. So yeah, that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. This was me talking about the worst free agency contract signings of the 2010s. I'll just go over all of them now. So the honorable mentions was Tyler Johnson getting 4 years, $50 million. Dwight Howard getting 3 years, $70 million by the Hawks. Brandon Knight getting 5-year, $70 million from the Suns. Alan Crabb, who was a restricted free agent, got 4 years, $75 million from the Nets, which was still matched by the Blazers. Landry Fields getting $20 million over 3 years from the Raptors, and Josh Smith getting $54 million over 4 years from the Pistons. And those were just my honorable mentions. Solomon Hill getting $48 million from 4 years from the Pelicans. He averaged 6 points in his tenure in New Orleans. Monta Ellis getting 4 years, $44 million from the Pacers. Only ended up playing 2 years there. Nicholas Batum getting $120 million over 5 years to average 11 points per game. Bismack Biyombo getting $70 million over 4 years to average about 6 points a night in 20 minutes a game. Don't know what the Magic were thinking there. Evan Turner getting 4 years, $70 million by the Blazers to average 8 points in 24 minutes. Ryan Anderson getting 4 years, $80 million by the Rockets. Chandler Parsons getting $94 million. 94 for 4 years by the Memphis Grizzlies to average 7 points per game in less than 20 minutes a night in 3 years. He played about 30 games a year on average. Luol Deng, $72 million over 4 years to play 57 games for the Lakers and average 7 points a night. Timothy Mozgov getting $64 million over 4 years, and the contract was so bad they had to package their best asset in D'Angelo Russell to get off that contract. And Joakim Noah getting $72 million over 4 years from the Knicks. He ended up playing 53 games in 2 years, and he got stretched. So let me know which contract you think was the worst, or give me your top 3 worst contracts from the video. Also, if I didn't mention one, because there was a lot of bad ones, so I know I left some out, let me know in the comment section below. Or let me know if you think one of these contracts didn't deserve to be on this list or didn't even deserve to be mentioned at all and you didn't think it was that bad. But yeah, on July 7th, 2016, there were some bad contracts given out. Just the 2016 offseason in general hurt a lot of teams. Basically, if you didn't spend any money or didn't sign anyone in that free agency class, you honestly did yourself a favor. So yeah, that is going to be for me. Drop a like on this video. If this video gets over 1,500 likes, I'm down to do kind of the 10 best free agency signings of the 2010s. So let me know in the comments below what you guys thought. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.